Just You podcast. We'll be conducting a conversation inside the music with Gerald Riddick.
Conversations Inside the Music, where we discuss the topics you think about when you're chilling with your fuzzy slippers and your onesie.
Yeah!
Welcome to Conversations Inside the Music with Gerald Riddick.
What's the deal? Yours truly, the magnificent DJ Jazzy Joe.
Hi, this is Jill Scott, a.k.a. Jilly de Philadelphia.
Hey, this is Gerald Veasley.
Conversations Inside the Music.
With my dear friend, the amazing Gerald Riddick.
So get ready to join in on the conversation and chill with us on another edition of Conversations Inside the Music with Gerald Riddick.
Well, hello, and welcome to today's edition of Conversations Inside the Music. I'm your host, Carol Riddick. Our guest is a former radio show host, musician, educator, curator, and a multifaceted contemporary jazz bassist and recording artist. He's the artistic director and co-founder of his very own Bass Bootcamp and curator of the world-renowned Unscripted Jazz series. And he's the president of Jazz Philadelphia and the official musical host of the Berks Jazz Fest. Family, welcome to today's conversation with none other than Mr. Gerald Veasley. Well, hello, Gerald.
Hey, Carol. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I feel like I am somebody. Thank you for welcoming me. I do appreciate you. You are awesome. And I'm so excited to be a part of this. This is great.
I am so happy that you have agreed to be a guest. So I read in an article that quotes you as having said your uncle, Ira Tucker, Grover
That's right.
Washington Jr., and Joe Zawinul shaped you personally and professionally. Would you speak to that and just tell us how and why?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for asking that wonderful question, because those men really poured into my life, starting with my uncle Ira. So Ira Tucker, he's no longer with us, but he was a legendary gospel singer.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, the Dixie Hummingbirds was always part of the soundtrack, hearing his music. And when my father passed away, Uncle Ira came to me and he said, "Don't worry, I'll be your dad now." And I didn't know how to take that, because my father and I were so close. I was like, this is really weird. I know it was meant to be loving, but I didn't understand it at first. But what he meant was, he was going to supply me with the thing that I needed the most at that period in my life, which was to launch me into a career in music. Because prior to that time, I thought that I would be a lawyer. I was an undergrad at University of Penn, but I was basically very lost, because after my father died, I went into like this dark period. It was totally unexpected. It was really struggling and emotionally. And he said, "Well, I got you." So what he did was he put me to work, because Uncle Ira at that time was not only singing, but he was producing records. So he called me into the studio again and again and again. I played on maybe 10 albums for him. And it really gave me the confirmation that I could earn a living as a musician. So it really jump-started that part of my life, and was very affirming, because I had never really thought of music as a real career. I just thought it was something that I loved. And then the combination of my father passing and recognizing the power of music as a healing force really helped me. But then understanding it as a vocation in a very direct way, that was super beneficial to me. So that's why Uncle Ira is like just so important to me in my life. Yeah, something, right?
That's an incredible story. A really, really and truly incredible story. And as you know, having lost both of my parents, I can certainly relate to just feeling lost, being lost, and just not really having a good understanding of what's to come or what's next or where to go or what to do. So I definitely, I overstand everything you just said.
And that's one of the things you and I, we talk about. We talk about trying to what it's like as an artist. You're navigating your own world and your own feelings while you have this expectation to pour into other people through the music. And I have to say, if for those of in your audience that gets a chance to see you perform live, they may have heard you on the recordings, but to see, it's really cathartic, I think, for us sharing the stage with you, and for people listening to you, to see you kind of channel those deep emotions. It's never with you, it's never just songs, but it's really healing, and it's very cathartic. And I'm just grateful for those experiences, to be with you, walk with you as you're going through those things. And I always say that music doesn't solve everything, but it helps until the real solution comes, which in my world, it's Jesus Christ. That I think that music is, and the arts, they are just so important in our life. But ultimately, I think the thing is to have a God-centered life, and that's the ultimate solution. But sometimes you need something with flesh and bones on it, or something that can speak to you in a way that is very direct and meaningful. And again, music does that. Don't you agree?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. And I thank you for the compliments that you just extended to me. And that is exactly what I feel, when interpreting a body of work. It's a release for me. It's therapy for me. And I typically feel the energy that's in the room, and the spirit that's being shared with me from those who are listening and participating, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody is a participant, as you know. And it makes me so full that I can't help but share what I'm feeling.
Oh yeah, we've had some times on stage that were just, wish I could
Magical.
I wish I could bottle it, because when I try to describe it to people, it never does it justice. They just have to see for themselves, really.
And I believe that's it in a nutshell. It's our spirit together that's contributing to that moment. Of course, the one
Yeah.
and only is the reason, and that is God. Just to share spirit, time, space, and to be in the same space.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no other feeling to me. That feels so wonderful. I've told people, when I listen to you play, it's like, for me, it's like studying a painting made by
Mm,
different individuals with different backgrounds, because
mm.
you'll play something and then you'll go somewhere completely different. But to look at you and to see you, you appear to be walking along the same road as when you started playing the song. So that has always been fascinating to me. And you don't look like you've gone in another direction. You look like you're in the same. How does he
That's
do that?
interesting. See, I've never heard that description of my playing before. That's fascinating. It does. I do allow music at its best, or those moments when they're at their best, I allow it to transport me, and I think it's one of those things you can't really force, but it feels good when you kind of just let it take you somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're able to express whatever it is that you're feeling. Um, those are the kind of experiences you just want to bottle and have everyone share in that, not just receiving it, but be able to have those moments too, where you're transported from the everyday and mundane, thinking about how the arts also create a world that you would like to have, and not just the world you have.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is so important for us to think about, that these days, that we can certainly, the arts can be reflective of the times, but they can also be helpful as we try to recreate a new world. So when you go into performing, you're making a statement about your life, but you're also making an aspirational statement about what you would have
Mm-hmm.
music or painting be, or a story. What would you have it be? And I think arts do that in a way that no other idiom does.
I agree with that. I definitely
Mm-hmm.
agree with that. I would like to go back to the question I asked about the three individuals. You also mentioned Grover Washington Jr. I read of an experience of which you spoke when given a CD or a cassette, when you guys would be on the road. So you said that he would get onto the bus, and after having played a full show and having done a meet and greet, and he would play the CD or the cassette on the bus. He would play it in its entirety,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you all would listen to it. Would you share?
Yeah, that's a great question because as you just kind of described, you kind of painted the picture of, a band. We're on the road with Grover Washington Jr., it's maybe 7, 8 people in the band. And we will have traveled all day on a tour bus. We'll have done sound check, a full 2-hour show, sometimes at least 90 minutes, but often it could be 2 hours. And then he will have done the meet and greet. And now standing at the backstage door, or maybe even in the venue, someone will have handed him a CD, an aspiring artist. And see, if it were me and you handed me your CD, it probably would go in the stack of CDs that are behind me, like where I would eventually get to it.
Yes, eventually. Eventually, yes.
And if I know you, that eventually will be sooner, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
If I don't know you, I don't even know what to do, right?
Oh, no.
But Grover, he would take that CD you'd hand him, and as you just described it, he would put it in the CD player in the bus, on a tour bus, and all of us, dog tired, would have to listen to this CD. And I was like, why are you doing this? You're Grover Washington Jr. Like, what do you think you're going to find in a CD? Like, how are you going to, why do you? And so when I asked him, he said, you never know what you're going to hear. And he said, everybody's got something to say. So that showed you his respect for people and people's artistry on wherever they were in that continuum of growth as an artist, that he could find something valuable in somebody who's just getting started, just as much as he could find in listening to a seasoned professional, because that was his spirit. It was beyond music, where he had just this love of people and a respect for, what people were endeavoring to do. And from a practical standpoint, he also was aware that you might hear something in even the most novice performance that could be inspiring. So it was really, and the part about my reaction to it is that I definitely want to grow in that area. The last thing I'll say about Grover when it comes to all these things is that I never heard him speak negatively of another musician, which is powerful because I don't know if your listeners know musicians.
Yeah.
But pray for us.
Pray for us, please. Please pray for us, please. I always say we creatives, we are a different bunch. I tell you, we really are. We are, to know us is definitely to love us.
It's so true. But that man, he was just generous. Now, that's not to say he was, he still was very clear on who he was. So even though he had this generosity of respecting what other people did and being kind to people, he was also very, very focused and in one way, in a positive way, very competitive about like being the best and like putting it all out there on the bandstand. And if you're going to sit in with him, you better come with it. Or if like, with it being a largely an instrumental group, the Grover Washington Band, if there's like a double bill, like Grover Washington and another artist, and let's say, for example, the artist might be, I'm not going to name any names, but let's say it's like a big name R&B artist, like maybe a singer with a lot of hits, and the promoter would tell Grover, you're going to open for so-and-so. You'd be like, okay.
No, I love it.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. But when Grover and his band is finished, you better really bring it. And I don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because we open up for some of the biggest names at that time in the business. And I would say the only two artists that I saw that had anything coming close to what Grover would have as a show would be Patti LaBelle and Earth, Wind and Fire.
Ooh, ooh.
Everybody else,
Mm.
you would really be better off opening up.
Yeah. Love that story, and I love it so much because I've always said, like, when I've been asked by other musicians, you don't mind opening, no, you don't, because you're always supposed to bring your A game. You're always supposed to do the best that you possibly can, and if you do the best that you possibly can in any situation, then there are no regrets. There are no regrets. You've enjoyed yourself. You've done all that you could do in that moment. So no, it's okay. Now I can go and enjoy the next person.
That's true. And I do know that about you because you've been in some big stages and some fantastic festivals and places where you're like, okay, Gerald Riddick, she's going to be your opening act. But I know, and I've actually heard from people who were at some of those shows. I never told you this, but they were like, "Oof!" When Carol got done, we basically felt like the show was over.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing, though.
But I don't think of it as a negative in terms of competition. It is a question of bringing your A game, and I think if everybody brings their A game, it only benefits. It benefits everyone.
Exactly.
Don't dumb it down. Bring it up.
I've never understood that conversation, that discussion, and sometimes that argument between artists about opening and closing and all.
Yeah, let me tell you about a different experience I had though. Wait a minute. So I'm playing in South Africa. So I'm on this big festival. I'm the only artist that's from the United States. All the rest are South African artists, but they're well known. One is Sipho Gumede, who was a wonderful bass player who had a lot of hits. And the closing act was Hugh Masekela, who of course is iconic. So I had a South African band and we had rehearsed and everything. I'm backstage, I'm excited, and I could hear the MC warming up the crowd. Are you ready to hear Sipho Gumede? You want to hear some Hugh Masekela? Yeah. Who's ready for Gerald Veasley? Crickets.
No.
Like, okay, yeah, okay. So all throughout the day, I'm back there waiting for my time, and meanwhile, the piano player, wonderful, I can't remember his name, piano player, he got stuck in traffic or something happened and he didn't arrive on time and she's warming everybody up, getting ready for Gerald Veasley. And now it's time to go on and I don't have a piano player. It's just going to be bass, drums, and saxophone. So I'm like, well, you know what? We're just going to go on. We're just going to do it.
Yeah.
But Hugh Masekela comes to my dressing room. He says, oh, my brother, we cannot let this happen to you. He said, I will go on in your place. So he switched the order so that instead of me playing, he took his band on and played in my slot.
Wow.
I thought that was just so
that was
generous. So now envision a soccer stadium. And his show was starting, right? And normally if there's another artist, I usually don't listen to other people's sets because I like to, I don't know if you're that way too.
No, I can't.
You want to just focus, right?
Yeah.
So I said, well, let me go and see what bro Hugh is doing. Let me hear the great Hugh Masekela and just get some of the vibe and see what the venue looks like now that it's full of people. And I don't know how many thousands of people out there. Without exaggeration, it had to be like 20,000 people. And I go out on the side and I'm looking. Way off in the distance is Hugh Masekela. And then every time he would start a song, was within the first 5 seconds, the crowd would erupt. It could be just like a little guitar line. Ding, 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 ding. Everybody knew every single song, and they were singing along with all the music. And I was like, now I got to follow that. Like the most famous musician to come out of South Africa. Everybody knows not just the songs, but the intros to the songs. I said, man, this was a setup. So, he finishes his show, and it's, that now is like, are you ready to hear Gerald Veasley? I'm thinking, man, am I ready to hear Gerald Veasley? So I get out on stage, and now meanwhile, remember what I just said, that people were singing along with Hugh Masekela's music, like all of it. And I'm like, these people, they don't know me. They're not even going to know my music. But we start playing. First song was a song from my first album called Fly Spy. It had a nice groove. And people, I could see them start to warm up to it, even though they didn't know it. And they were kind of moving along with it. It felt good. Then the second song I did, Country Preacher, which is, you mentioned Joe Zawinul, was Joe Zawinul's song. And like midway through it, playing the melody, I hear people singing along with the melody.
Oh, wow.
And then the next song, people, once they figured out the melody, I'm talking about thousands of people just started singing along. And I was like, this is different than what I expected. And then I realized that it wasn't so much me, is that the people were ready to receive that day, right?
Wow.
And so my real job was just not to get in the way. And then I realized, someone had told me later, that the name of that town was called Mamelodi. And that was the name of the festival, Mamelodi, which means Mother Melody.
Oh, wow. Talk about design and orchestration.
I know. So these people already primed for whatever I had to bring.
Wow.
And it was just a lesson in, again, on what we're talking about. It's bigger than just your own connection with the music or your ego or what you want to achieve. It's bigger than that. People need it, and often they're ready to receive it. We just have to get out of the way.
You and I have had that conversation so many times, because we've had that, an experience that confirms it over and over again, about getting out of the way, and how it's not about us to begin with, that, we are merely the vessels. We have been graciously given gifts to share. But as long as we get out of the way and we let our gifts do exactly what they do, God has his way, and he's always going to have his way, but he has his way. Yes. And we get lucky, we're blessed because we're the recipients of it as well, which is, why I always say to you, when we work together, I'm so full, because we both have that same understanding, and you have always, you've done an incredible job of choosing other musicians who are like-minded and of shared spirit. So it's an even bigger experience for me. Because sometimes there is mixed spirit in some circles.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
But with you, I always wanted to work with you. Always. I didn't know what it would look like in terms of an actual project that would be worthy of everything that you have to offer. But I always, I had this idea of like, that we're kindred spirits. And I had, even long before I ever invited you to do anything, I just always knew that was one of my objectives, was to make music with you. Yeah, for a long time. I just felt that it would be a wonderful combination. I just knew it. Now, I'm not in saying that, Carol.
Okay.
I have to say, now listen, tell me how you feel about this. Some
Okay.
that doesn't always work out. Just because you
Ooh,
think
no.
that it's going to be a good match with another musician or artist, right?
Yes. Oh, I have had that.
Right? It
Man,
doesn't always work
no,
out.
it doesn't. And you know, it is interesting to me because I too have had that. Like that 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 feeling, like it's strong when you feel it. You're like, you know what, we need to work together. I just
Hmm.
feel like we would just create some great music together, and then
Hmm.
you either meet the individual or you just so
Mm.
happen to share the same space, and it's not at all what you thought it would be.
What do
Um,
you think that is? Because I think about that. It's like, because I can, that same example, then I can go back to enjoying the person's music, but just know that that connection is not for me.
I agree. I would like to believe that in the space of time where we connected, that that spirit that I felt from that individual was not dominant at that time.
Mm.
So I allow myself to accept that that spirit was just not the dominant one
I think
in
that
the space
makes
and time
so
that
much,
we in the space and time that we connected.
that makes so much sense to me. There was an artist whom, so Roxanne and I don't know if you know this, but I don't want to get too deep into it and make it too personal, but we encountered a personal problem that was really heartbreaking, where we lost a little baby girl in the eighth month of our pregnancy. And there was a particular song by a particular artist that really spoke to me. I know you've had these songs like
Hmm.
that you connect with at a certain period of your life,
I still do.
right? And people, and you as an artist, that we will also have those songs where it's like it's more than just a song. It's
Hmm.
like speaking to you at
Hmm.
that moment. It's ministering to you in
Yes.
the moment when you need it. So I happened to be on an event with this artist years later. And I went to her and I said, "You don't know how much your song moved me." And I explained what my wife and I had gone through. And just, I didn't want anything, but I just felt this need to express it. Man, you would have thought I had three heads. She was like security. And then, wait a minute. So what's the punchline? Then, so a few years after that, I was in the same program with her, and she probably didn't connect the dots that I was the same person. And she was just as sweet and gracious as I thought she would have been
And
before.
see,
So for me, like, it's tough to withhold judgment, because here's the thing: we're all going through something,
we are.
right? And so the way I kind of reconciled it at that time was that, and I'm sure you can appreciate this too, that what I wanted from her,
Mm-hmm.
she had already given to me by me hearing the song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So to give me more personally, face to face, it was never really her responsibility, but she couldn't really, the song, the way I felt the song was just, that was between me and God and the song.
Mm-hmm.
And it came through her and it touched me.
Yep.
What more did I want? I'm just so greedy,
Oh, no,
right?
no, no.
But and I think as artists too, that's the other part of it, is like, is when people say to us, your song meant so much to me, or your music meant so much to me, it's like, what is our responsibility in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, sometimes people can take it too far, and you do want to call security.
Yeah.
So what's your reaction to all of that I just spilled out onto the table? But that question of, like, what is an artist's responsibility? If you're giving the work, you're putting your heart and soul into the work, and this is great, because this forum that we're in now is going to speak to fans,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to speak to artists and creatives. But yeah, I think it's interesting.
No, I do too, but I believe it to be more than just the responsibility of the artist. I believe it to be, the responsibility of each individual, the recipient
Mm,
and the artist. I mean, we are all human beings. And again, I believe that the recipient has received what they needed because we, as the artist, have gotten out of the way and have allowed our gift,
mm,
to do exactly what it does. So I believe in recognizing that and accepting that we have a responsibility,
mm,
as the vessel. It's a bigger responsibility in accepting
mm.
that we are the vessel, that we should try to be a little more understanding because people are really open and vulnerable in the moments that they share that information with us,
Yeah.
because we all have that experience with some artist or at some period or point in time, so I think that we all have a responsibility to one another, just as human beings. And, we always talk about
Yes.
demonstrating the God in you. And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
always say that God is love. So
yeah.
when do we demonstrate that? That's a good moment to do so.
Mm, mm, mm.
I respect that responsibility and the platform that was given to me. And I thank you so much for being open to receive what God had for you.
Mm, mm, mm. That's powerful. You do demonstrate that all the time. That graciousness and yeah, that humility of understanding that is coming through you, and that when the song is over, that if it's still moving people, that it's okay to still be connected, to still be connected. That can be a burden sometime, because people will want a lot. And here's the other part of it, is that we're living in a world where people are hurting immeasurably,
Immeasurably.
right?
I
So,
always say we are all
mm,
broken.
yeah,
In the act of omitting that we ourselves are hurting, we're not receptive to the next human being hurting as well.
right. That's right. Because we live in a society where it's, especially for men, but of people in general, that it's not really okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to talk about vulnerability, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to talk about it. It's like, tell
Mm-hmm.
me what's on your mind. But do you really want to hear what's on my mind?
When people ask you, well, how you doing? Well, I'm all right, but I can't complain. And then you say, well, I could. And then people say, well, don't, because nobody wants to hear it anyway. And they are so right.
It's so right.
There's never been a truer statement. But
Mhm.
sometimes you need somebody to just listen to you. Not that you need them to react or respond. Sometimes you
Yeah,
do need to complain. You just need to complain in order to be able to let it go.
that feels so right. And we talked about this recently, how we live in a time too where we can take the masks off, the masks that people wear, especially people who are public figures, the mask that you have to wear to present a good image in the social media world.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the question of how you're doing, for the first time that I can remember, is a real question.
You
The
were talking
realness.
about everybody having to lift the veil and just be who they are. I stay inside my cave because I don't want it if it's not real. I don't like it if it's
Mm,
not real. It's so
hmm.
distasteful to me.
Yeah,
And I just want real. I want to be able to do exactly what we're doing. To just talk about life and everything in it.
and just be ourselves.
Yeah, just be.
Just be.
There's a
Hmm.
level of comfort in that is indescribable for me.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that so strongly. Um, it's interesting, like silver linings keep showing themselves in this time, and then maybe that's one of them, that we can, lift the veil and not have to be on, and not have to be photo ready. Be who you are
I
for a
think God is
moment.
calling us to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I believe He's
Mm-hmm.
placed us in the position to hear Him, see Him, and to
Yes.
fully understand and to actually look at ourselves. He
Yeah,
wants us to see ourselves. He's
absolutely.
saying to us, "You've gotten too far from who I
Mhm.
created you to be."
Yes, that's right.
The silver lining in it all is that he's making us spend time
Yep,
with our loved one. He's
yep,
bringing us closer to one another.
yep.
You know what I mean? How can you not love that?
Yeah, yeah. We're finding new ways to connect, and we're also finding time to connect that we didn't, because everybody was on the roller coaster or treadmill or whatever image you want to use
Mm-hmm.
of just constantly hustling, rushing from one thing to the next.
True.
And now it's like he hit the pause button, like, okay, nobody's hustling for a while.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
so what are you going to do with that time? And even in that, a lot of the earliest moments where people were trying to figure out hustles,
Yes,
a
that's
new
so
hustle.
true.
So it's a matter of, just like you said, he's calling us to be quiet. He's calling us to be engaged with one another.
Mm-hmm.
He's calling us to take time to do the things that we had put aside. I had a friend of mine I was talking to recently. And when I say talking, a friend of mine, first of all, is someone that we used to have office in the same building, and
Mm-hmm.
we would see each other and have these wonderful conversations. Then I hadn't seen her for years. Then I ran into her on the street. We had a wonderful conversation. Then one day out of the blue, somebody said, well, call Eileen. It's like, oh, okay, I'll call Eileen. And in speaking with her, we just rediscovered things we had never found out about each other. And then hearing her, what she was going through, she's an interior designer as well as a fine artist. And her interior design business was booming. But then coronavirus happened and she really couldn't visit locations,
Right.
right? So it made her pause. But she said, you know what? She said, yesterday, for the first time in a long time, I finished reading a book. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, you know what? Last night I finished reading a book. And then she said, and I'm starting to read poetry again. So in one way, what's upsetting, there are many things that are upsetting about what we've been going through,
Absolutely.
and not the least of which is that there are lives in jeopardy. But there's also what's in jeopardy in a lot of ways is just our normal routine, our way of life, the way we are, our rhythm, right? The way we're used to going about things, the
Mm-hmm.
hustle, the grind, this get a good night's sleep so you can hustle and grind all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like that rhythm, that song has been interrupted, but it's enabled to way, and I'm kind of vamping on what you said earlier, it's allowing us to get back to the original song.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other things that you loved that you put aside, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I think a lot of people in this moment were saying, well, man, I'm going to learn whatever. I'm going to,
Right. Right.
I'm right. I'm going to add addition to my house. I'm going to,
I've heard that.
I'm
So
going to,
no, I have.
I'm going to learn to speak Portuguese. I mean, and that's awesome. But you can also, and I'm not making a recommendation. This is for me, speaking to me. You can also go back and reclaim those things that you gave up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're thinking largely as a society about what we're losing, but there are moments, just moments where we can think about what we're reclaiming,
Right. Right.
right? What we have the opportunity to reclaim. Like, now families, like you were telling me, I hope I'm not speaking out of term, you're talking about your family getting together over Zoom.
Yes. Oh my goodness, Gerald, when I tell you, and I shared this story with you, that I have used Zoom for years, but never once did it occur to me to say to my family, look, we should all get together and just have a family video chat. Not one time. I don't even understand how it escaped me, but I was feeling so disconnected and detached, and
Mm-hmm.
I missed my family. And here is the funny thing about it. I was missing family members that I did not know. I said, I need to know you. I want to know
Mm-hmm.
who you are. I don't know all of my family, and I just need to love up on you, and I need that in return. And It was amazing how many members of my family called in, and in the first call they said, "Oh, we want to do this every week."
Hmm.
So this past week we started playing games now. So this past week we just played Family Feud, and
Oh, wow.
I'm
It's awesome.
for that.
Because in a way, that's how families used to be. Families had the opportunity to be together and act together because at one point families lived together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not just the nuclear family, but the extended family would live in the same neighborhood or area, if not the same house. And so as we've become more disconnected and people got busier and busier, then we would look forward to the family reunion, right?
Yes.
And what you're having now is like you're having family reunions every week without the potato salad.
Yes, I know. Well, listen, I don't need any potato salad right now. I have a question for you. I want
Mhm.
to skip all over the place, but I want to skip and ask you. We did not go into the third person that
Mhm.
influenced you,
Because
Mr.
my
Gerald
answers are
Veasley.
so doggone long.
Listen, no. But no, I want to ask you, I want to go back to that. But right now, I would like to know if there is someone on your radar of whom you feel we should be aware.
Yeah, so that's a great question. One of the people that comes to mind is a wonderful pianist. His name is Eric Wortham. And Eric is, yes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Eric is a phenom. And so listen out for him. He is so, I think he stands right at the intersection of like um, classic musicianship in terms of like command of his instrument, but with a modern sensibility. I mean, somebody who grew up with a sensibility for jazz and classical music and hip hop and R&B and pop music. Some of your audience may know him from his work with Adele
Mm-hmm.
and
And
people like
Jill.
exactly and Jill Scott.
And with
But
me.
and with you, right? That's right. So I'm preaching to the choir, exactly. But I think he is someone that people should really be aware of. Eric Wortham. Two other folks that I'll recommend who are from this area who I really adore. They both happen to be ex-students of mine on bass. One is Jonathan Smith, who's a phenomenal, very creative composer, producer, fantastic bass player, who has, I think he's getting ready to release his second CD. And another is a young man by the name of Jake Lashinsky, who has a band called Swift Technique,
Oh,
which is like,
yeah.
yeah, they're like a funk band. And I mean, he has been so dedicated to that band for a number of years. And he's like Clark Kent and Superman. If you just run into him in the street, he doesn't wear glasses, but he could. But when he gets on stage, he is just unleashed, phenomenal, high energy musician. And they're doing some really interesting work. Their latest single features Lady Alma.
Whom I love and adore.
Exactly.
Mm.
So yeah, so look out for Swift Technique, look out for John Smith and Eric Wortham. Those are good. Those are my choices.
Ooh, three great choices.
And Carol Riddick,
Great.
keep her on your turntable, keep her on your Spotify playlist, keep her everywhere. Just whenever you feel like you need adrenaline or a vitamin, just start typing. Go CA and the rest will populate.
And then the rest you know what? I have to say, with regard to Eric Wortham, he and I co-wrote, along with Adam Blackstone and Steve McKee, one of my signatures, well, my signature song, A Better Me.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
But we're actually we're going to release a live of us doing that song.
Oh, wow. You didn't even pay me for that plug. See
I
that?
did not. I know.
That worked.
Check is in the mail. The check is in the mail.
That's going to be my new side hustle. Okay, if you're going to interview me, tell me what you want me to plug. No, I think that'll be awesome. It took me a long time to really analyze the song because it's very interesting harmonically. It's rich vocally and lyrically, and it's just got a great vibe. It's one of those songs that if you're not really steeped in like the theory of music. It just sounds like sounds like a good chord progression. But that song has some depth, man.
Gerald,
And
coming
then,
from you, that means so
no,
much.
yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about collaboration, because people can introduce something that you may not have anticipated into the equation.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, yeah,
I
that
feel like
kind
you
of
get to
team
learn
mixes.
something.
Hmm.
Let me ask you this. Is there anything about you that you feel we may not know? It could be a
Yeah.
crazy fun fact. It could be something very serious.
Well, so remember I said, getting back to what you did before and now taking the time to reclaim. I
Yeah.
started working on a novel
Really?
a couple years ago, and I put it down. But I don't even have a good reason why I put it down. I think one of the reasons was it became really so complex, and not intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
but all these characters kept introducing themselves to me, and all these kind of interwoven plot lines kept introducing themselves. And I was like, you know what, this is crazy. Maybe maybe I'm losing my mind.
No.
But I started, I had written it. I've got a good part of it written. I've probably about, I would say, close to two-thirds done with it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I stopped. But now I'm getting back into it again, and actually shared I had never shared it with anyone, and I shared it with a couple of people who I had the audacity to mention it to,
Okay. Okay.
and they really liked. I shared like the first chapter, so it gave me enough encouragement to keep going with it, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. So yeah,
Huh. I can't wait to read it. I love a good read. So I can't.
yeah. But I'll put it this way: at the heart of it, it's about identity, and
Oh.
it's about the sense of who we are versus who society tells us we are, tells other people who we are. And it's what really made me go back and go through it, is that it's set in starts in 1917,
Oh wow.
around the time of the United States entering into World War One. And then it introduces the pandemic of 1918, which is really weird. Like, not that I predicted any of the coronavirus pandemic. It was a little piece of the story because it's a historical novel
Mm-hmm.
with these different characters who are trying to just sort through who they are in the context of these big historical changes happening. Wow, it sounds like what we're going through
It,
now.
it really does. I definitely like to read that Nostradamus if I
Isn't that weird though?
That may be one of your gifts. Who knows? Who knows?
If
Or
you
just,
see me sitting on the corner of the table with some tarot cards, you'll know. You'll know that I've taken my gift and turned it into a hustle.
I'm going to go to Roxanne.
You're making my side hurt, Carol. Oh
No,
my
you.
God. Yeah,
Oh
that's
my goodness. Well, you know
terrible.
what? I have to say, I thank you so much for everything. And
Oh,
I mean
bless you.
that. I mean that to that's inclusive of you sharing your gift and your space and your time and your energy with me. That's for you and Roxanne welcoming me in every
Mm.
way. I don't know that I could ever thank you guys for the contribution that you've made to me
Oh,
and my
it's
life.
mutual. It's so mutual.
So
We are just proud to be your friend and proud to work with you artistically, and to kind of share this journey together.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Please, please, please extend my love to the
I
family.
will.
Give
Absolutely.
Roxanne extra hugs and kisses, though, from me.
I will. I'm gonna put my mask on right now
You're
and do that. Yeah.
so terrible.
Love you, Carol.
Love you more. Thank you, guys. Well, family, that wraps up another edition of Conversations Inside the Music with yours truly, Carol Riddick. Once again, thank you so much for joining the conversations. If you like what you heard, please tell a friend. And be sure to check out prior interviews on our YouTube and Facebook pages or any media stream where you typically listen to your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and be notified when new episodes are available. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Conversations Inside the Music, and on Twitter at Chat and Chill, so you too can join the conversations. See you next time on another edition of Conversations Inside the Music with Carol Riddick. Be good to you and to those around you, and remember, to whom much is given, much is required.
Conversations Inside the Music with Carol Riddick.